Hi, sports fans. I'm Earl Christie. We have an exciting show for you today. I have the one and only Jesse B. Brown. He is a finance advisor. You're going to be hearing some great things, especially in the world of sports with athletes making that big money. We're going to hear some great things from this gentleman. Welcome to the show, Jesse.
Thank you, Earl. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I just got to preface this because I had the great joy of seeing you at work, and it really impressed me how you were doing certain things, giving seminars on, just advising people with finance. But what's so great about it, you have been written up, and you got to tell the sports fans. First of all, where are you from? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, and that's where I got my first interest in sports. As you know, Earl, I was a high school athlete.
Okay.
And played high school basketball and football.
Okay.
And that's where I really learned teamwork. And through that teamwork effort, I was able to get off to college and really get into my studies. So I'm from Texas, but I live right here in Chicago now.
You know what impresses me too. Now you said you come from Texas and you're doing those certain things, but who motivated you to get into the finance? Because a lot of times young people don't get into the financial aspect. You were a stockbroker, right? Am I correct?
I'm a stockbroker, but let me tell you, I didn't start out being a stockbroker.
Okay.
It was my teachers in school. Actually, it was my coach
Right.
who really got me going. You know, they talk about English teachers and history teachers and math teachers, but it's that coach that really motivates young people. And I think that it's so important that we, laud our coaches for all the excellent works that they do. And it was my coach who told me to prepare myself in high school for college, and he developed the teamwork mentality in me. Between my coach, who was also an assistant scoutmaster on the troop that I belonged to at my Boy Scout troop at my church, and through those two elements, I believe that I developed my leadership skills early in life. It was the coach.
You have to tell the sports fans, what are some of the magazines that wrote you up? I couldn't believe this. Wall Street Journal.
Yes, that's right. September, I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Just this month, in October, I have a column in Smart Money magazine, which is on.
So last month in October, you were on that.
On Smart Money magazine. I've been on various television shows, including Fox on Money on cable. I've been on MoneyWise television. I've been on Minority Business Report. You know, the reason why I'm on all these programs is because today, more than ever before, people are interested in money. You know, Earl, in the past, people had some kind of like self-assurance that the government was going to take care of them.
Right.
Social Security. You heard about it.
And no question.
Medicare, all that sort of thing. But you know what the government is telling us these days? The government is telling us each and every day that there's something wrong with these entitlement programs. And for that reason, it is becoming more and more important for everyone to pay attention to their finances. Not only the athletes, but everyone. Now, especially the athletes, and I know you want to talk about that, Earl.
Yeah, well, you know, when I think about it, you think about the people like Shaq O'Neal that's making the big bucks, of course, Michael Jordan. Let's start off with some of the big guys that are making money, or Garrett. What should you tell them when they're making those big dollars? How would you go about trying to invest those dollars?
Let me ask you something, Earl. Baseball is frankly my favorite sport.
Okay.
It's kind of like a forgotten sport. People, talk about basketball a lot and football. But do you realize it was just a few weeks ago that Piazza, the catcher for the New York Yankees, got a $91 million contract. Can you believe a baseball player getting that kind of money?
Unbelievable.
And this is why we need to pay attention to our finances. Not everyone can make it through the minors and the farm clubs and make it up to the major leagues. All these sports are making a lot of money. What gets me is the ones that don't make it. Now, let me ask you this question. You ever hear the name Darnell Autry?
Yes.
It wasn't too long ago, he was the #1 running back in the whole history of Northwestern University.
That is correct.
He was a junior.
Right.
He decided not to graduate. He left early, went to the pros, went to his dream team,
That's right.
the Chicago Bears.
Right.
Guess what? He got cut.
That's right. That's right. You was
Now,
good as your last minute.
That's right. He got cut. Then he went to the Philadelphia Eagles, and now, guess what? He's out of football. He wants to become an actor, but he hasn't found himself a movie yet. So here's a young man, 21 years old, started out with a promising career, but guess what? He left college early. At this point, he does not have his degree. So what does he have to fall back on?
Exactly. And then some of the guys, like some guys were very intelligent. When they first got their monies, they started putting them into certain things, in which we're going to talk about. And a lot of guys don't, because you don't live like you're making $20,000 when you're making $200,000. You're going to try to live like you're making $200,000 or more. Like most people spend more than what we make.
Well, actually, what they call that in the industry is conspicuous consumption. In other words, we got to get the cars, we got to get the diamonds, we got to get, all the fancy stuff that goes along with it. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about. I wrote the book called Pay Yourself First.
All right,
And
what a great thing. I mean, a lot of people love that. Pay yourself first, and we're going to elaborate on that. In fact, since you just mentioned in the book, maybe you can just hold it up and see your beautiful face on there. But,
it's not about my face. It's about the saying, pay yourself first. If some of these athletes had taken the time to make themselves their most important bill once they got their contract, they wouldn't be where they are today.
Right.
And you know this. You're a former professional football player.
Right.
If you had invested all that money and in a way that it would prepare you for your future and have an annuity, wow, you'd own this station.
Well, I tell you one thing. Now, we didn't make a whole lot of money now, but what you're saying, and you're going to explain to it, it's not how much you make, it's what you do with it, and that money over the years will compile.
Actually, you're absolutely right. You don't need a whole lot of money to start saving and investing.
Right.
Matter of fact, today, many mutual funds will allow you to begin investing with as little as $50 or $100 a month. So if you think we ought to get into it, let me try and explain to some of your folks.
Why don't we
how do we go about it?
First, we go by the order of investing, and I just wanted to put this up and see if we can get a little camera on this, just to talk to the folks about that, and then we're going to get into really the finances, because it's amazing how you really work there.
Well, actually, the key thing that you have to do is you have to have a base. So you have your income, and with your income, then you can determine your standard of living. Now, the first thing you need to do is have protection.
Okay.
What I mean by protection, I'm talking about insurance or an emergency fund, because guess what, Earl? Bad things happen to good people.
Right.
You have flat tires. Take Hurricane George here not too long ago. Hurricanes, just things happen. So you have to have an emergency fund set aside for instances like that. Once you've done that, then you can begin investing.
Okay, now when you say emergency, some people say, well, I'm just paying my bills. I don't have no extra money for emergency funds.
Well, you have to realize, as I said before, bad things happen to good people. So if you have a flat tire or your gas tank runs on empty, you got to have some way of pulling out that little extra effort. Now, a lot of my friends consider me their emergency fund. I know a lot of your old ex-ball players consider you their emergency fund.
Exactly. And that's a good point. I mean, you find out who your friends are. You say, hey, and everybody has emergencies, just like you said.
Yeah, things happen.
Oh, wow.
But the main thing that you have to do, and you can show the next chart now, is that you got to have a goal.
Okay.
If you don't have a goal, how are you going to get there?
We heard that a lot of times in sports or anything. It's the same theory. Definitely have to have a plan.
Now, remember when you played that Super Bowl, the big one that you won, Joe Namath and the rest of the boys, what did he say? Our goal is to win this thing.
Right.
And that's what we have to do in our finances as well. We have to have a goal. At the same time, when we have a goal, then we have to have a strategy. We have to figure out how to get to where we want to go. In other words, if your goal is to have $20,000 over the next 5 years to then make a down payment on your house, guess what? You have to divide that into a workable way of getting that money. You have to put away $5,000 a year because you need $5,000 over the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, and then you need a little extra money for the closing costs. So you have a 5-year plan. In other words, you need to work a plan. And then once you know what your plan is, your strategy, then you need to work on a portfolio. Once you do a portfolio, then you have a product. You decide how you want to invest your money. Now, some people want to buy a stock, just one stock. Well, you know, that is kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket. You have to be careful about that, Earl.
Now, let's break down portfolio. Some people know it different ways. Just to elaborate what you mean by a portfolio.
I'm glad you asked that question because, you know, that's a pretty big, fancy word. But all it is a basket of all your different types of investments.
Okay.
Many times I tell people when they want to buy one stock or one bond or something like that, that they're putting all of their investments into one particular thing. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket.
I heard that one before, yes.
So one way of doing that, the real key to success in building a portfolio is you have to have two key elements. The first element is diversification. Now, diversification is just that. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have more than one stock or bond or whatever. So you need to have different kinds of things. And the second thing is professional management. Because while you and I are right here on television, we can't be watching those investments. So we need an able professional manager of our funds.
I'm glad you said that because that's what I said was people don't know what to do. They have to have someone personal to help them out with these different plans.
You know, Earl, let me tell you something.
Like a coach.
Like a coach, absolutely. Just like a coach. You know, if I was sick and I needed surgery, I certainly wouldn't go to Walgreens and buy a knife. I would go and find myself a doctor, all right? Yeah. It's the same way with financial affairs. Too many people spend more time planning their summer vacation than they do planning their retirement. I think everyone should have a financial advisor as part of their cadre of friends. Even Jesus had 12 friends around him, and you never know. You may need somebody to help you on one thing or another. Exactly. You have a lawyer, you have an accountant, you have a tax preparer. You really ought to have a financial advisor with you. Now, one of the ways that people who don't have a lot of money can do this without hiring.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you, because what's going to happen is people can't afford an attorney or an accountant.
Well, in the case of finances, you can't afford a mutual fund. That's what a mutual fund is. It's professional management and diversification. And for a very small amount of money, you can select among 8,000 different mutual funds, some actually managed by African Americans, others managed by women. Many mutual funds have different sectors of the economy that they specialize in. You have a complete array, and that's why I came up with my 4 keys to success.
We can really get a close-up on the 4 keys to success. You sound like Norm Van Leer, the keys to the game. we won't go there. We hope that the NBA will start. But keys is no question success. It's definitely a great word that we use a lot.
Well, you know, I think that it's extremely important, and I think Norm does it so well when he pulls together the keys to success when he talks about the Bulls and getting ready for their games. But I think my first key to success is the next slide, where I simply say, what is your most important bill? Or what's your most important bill?
I know it, especially when you said pay yourself first, boy. And we used to pay ourselves last, okay?
That's right.
Pay yourself first. Plus, you're happy and you're going to be motivated.
Well, you know, it seems to me, when I ask that question of most people, you know what they tell me? They say, well, it's my car note, or it's the mortgage, or it's my kid's education. But, you know, to me, it's yourself, because it's nothing like having that peace of mind knowing that you've put away something for yourself. Now, the way you do that is you take money off your gross. Whatever it is that you make, whether it's $20,000 a year or $30,000 a year, or in the case of Piazza, $91,000.
91 million.
91 million. Oh, excuse me, that's right. 91 million. You have to put away some portion of that money for yourself first. And by doing that, you know, things seem to work. You know, people have a habit of living off their net. Whatever's in your pocket, you'll find some way to spend it. So what you need to do is take that away and save it. So saving and investing has got to be key on your mind. Pay yourself first.
Well, is there a certain percentage? Because I know one thing that we tried to teach our young people when we were growing up is to take 10% out for charity too. I mean, because you have to get used to giving too, you know, and a lot of times people don't, to teach them at a young age how to save, because it's good to start them at a young age, am I correct?
Absolutely. The younger, the better. And matter of fact, you're absolutely right about that first 10%. Giving back to your church or your charity, the motivating force within you is key, because once you learn that art of giving, you'd be absolutely amazed of what comes to you. The more you give, the more you get. And Earl, you've given a lot to this community, and look how blessed you've become.
Well, I'm truly blessed, and no question about it. And
it's
being
because
blessed.
you give. It's because you give. Now, the second 10%, I think you need to give to yourself. As I said, bad things happen to good people. So my recommendation is to try to live off of 80% of your income. Now, a lot of people who have not done that from an early age try to figure out, how am I going to do it? Well, here, let me give you a couple of examples. Well, you're going to get a salary increase. You're going to get a raise. Even if you're on Social Security, you're going to get a cost of living increase. Now, what happens from...
Go back to that again.
I said, really, even if you're on welfare, you're going to get a cost of living increase.
That's amazing.
Now, here's the thing. On June 30th, at the end of the quarter, you're making so much.
Okay.
On July 1st, the beginning of the second quarter, you get your increase. What's happened between one day and the next? Nothing. Why don't you take that increase and bank it? And then live off of that, what you were living on last week. It works, and you do that over a period of time, and you'll find that you have much more money to save and invest than you ever realize. With 83 cents a day, most people have at least 83 cents a day extra change in their pocket. You can have as much as $25 to $50 a month ready for saving. With $50 a month, at age 25 to age 65, you would have put away $24,000 just in savings. That's not bad. But guess what? If you put that same amount of money into a mutual fund, it would be worth over $500,000. In other words, it's extremely important to take as little as $50 a month and save and invest.
Do you think this helps people when money's taken out of the check, instead of saying, well, if I don't see it, I hear people saying it's so easy to take a certain percentage out, then I can save it. But if I get it in my hands, like you said, you're going to spend it.
Well, you know, that's a tremendous point that you make, because back in 1976, payroll deposit, direct deposit was invented. And now, if any of your listeners work for a company that has a 401k or a savings or investment plan within their company, they should join that plan immediately. You know why? Because it's tax deferred. That money comes off the gross of their salary, and they don't have to pay any taxes on that money until they take the money out. So 401k plan, if you work for a company that has one, if you don't have that at your employer, then you can start something called an individual retirement account, an IRA. Now there are two IRAs. There's one called a traditional IRA, then there's a Roth IRA. The Roth IRA has become extremely popular because that money you put in with after-tax dollars, and when you take the money out, you don't pay taxes on it at all. Now, that Roth IRA is not for everybody. It's usually for a younger person. Now, someone, you know, in our age category, Earl,
I'm getting ready to ask you, where were you 30 years ago giving me all this great information?
but people who are, say, in 50 or 55 years old or something like that, they may be more interested in a traditional IRA because in either case, if you take the money out before you're 59 and a half, you have to pay a 10% IRS penalty and the ordinary income tax. So if you're over 50 and you're going to invest for more than 10 years, you don't have to worry about that. Now, the only exception to that is with the Roth IRA, you can't take the money out in certain cases and use it for a down payment on a house or use it for educational expenses. But, you know, that brings me up to my second point in terms of the second key to success. It's time, not timing. Too many people think that there's a lotto in life, that somehow if they just wait, that next year they can start investing. Well, let me tell you, that is absolutely not true.
Procrastinating, huh?
Procrastination is the very worst thing that you can do when it comes to saving and investing. The earlier you do it, the better it is, because things compound. Compounding is so very important when it comes to saving and investing. Now, that's why on my third key here, which I think is very important, let me just make sure that everybody can see that, the power of compounding. So here's what the chart says. Suppose the day you were born, Earl, this goes for you.
Okay.
Your parents deposited just $1,000 in an account. And let's further assume that it was invested for just a modest 6% rate of return. If that investment was untouched until you turn age 65, that initial $1,000 would become $44,000 without ever adding another penny.
And now, is that at a certain percentage?
6%. That's pretty low.
That's right.
Let me tell you something. The stock market over the last 3 years have averaged 20%. So golly, how much money would that be? Now, if you show the next chart, Earl,
before we show the next chart, if I took a penny a day and I doubled it for 30 days during the month, and if I offered you $20,000, what would you take? The $20,000 or the doubling the penny for a day for 30 days?
You know, that was a question asked of me in my graduate school at Northwestern University, and I gave the wrong answer. I said the $20,000. But I've learned since then that compounding will give you more money.
And it's just an astronomical figure, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, people have got to realize that they must save and invest. And that's what this chart shows. You can see right here.
But this is amazing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we really need to take some time with this one because, you see, if you invest for 5 years $50 at 8%, at the end of that time period, you'll have $3,671. But if you take $200, it's $14,683. But if you have your time frame out 10 years, it doesn't double, it triples. You see that? It goes from $3,000 to $9,000. If your time frame is out 15 years, it's $16,000. And now you asked me, where was I 25 years ago?
Yeah.
If you had given me $50 a month,
good night.
You had to put it down, didn't you? You couldn't take it, could you?
I can't take it. I'm telling
That's why that's why your program is so important. The information you give to young people about saving and investing, preparing in high school and college, getting a good education,
yes,
not depending upon sports for their livelihood is so key to their success. Earl, you're to be congratulated for the good works that you're doing.
But I appreciate you saying that. I was going to crack a joke. I said, I didn't pay you for that. But truly, it's amazing how you give that information to people. And it's really simple. When you look about how we throw away money, I mean, you may go out a lot of times, and don't get me wrong, pay yourself first, like you said. But we spend a lot of money that we normally could use in savings and maybe pay now and be happy later. And a lot of times we just don't want to have that sacrifice, that discipline, as we talked about in sports. It's a carryover. It's no different.
Well, discipline is extremely important because, you know, if you don't take time out for yourself now, you know, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is to be old, sick, and broke. Too many of our senior citizens today are living on fixed income. Too many people, when they retire from one job, guess what? They have to take another job just to make ends meet. That is not a good thing. The American dream is pure and simple. Get a good education, work hard, and then be able to retire. Unfortunately, this is a fleeting dream because too many people today are just not preparing for retirement. Let me give you an example of a friend of mine. I don't know how much more time we have.
But you know, it's always running out of time when we have something great like this. Definitely have to invite you back.
Well, you know, I'm kind of reminded of my very good friend Bill Thompson over at the post office. You know, Bill retired back in 1976 as a postal worker. He had been he became a postal worker when he was 19 years old, pretty much like an athlete. He had a short career, worked for 20 years, so at 49 he was going to retire. He told everybody, he said at his retirement party, there was 100 people there, he was a very popular guy, he told everybody at his retirement party, all 100 of them, folks, I'm going to do the postal thing. No, he wasn't going to kill anybody.
Oh, okay.
Got a little nervous there.
Yeah, we got a little nervous.
No, what he said he was going to do, he was going to send each one of them a Christmas card every Christmas. Well, back in 1976, the postage stamp was 13 cents. So that was a $13 commitment on his $790 a month postal retirement. So that's not too bad. I saw him just about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Telling him I appreciated his Christmas card, see how he was doing. By the way, he has a $32 commitment now, right?
Right.
Postage stamps have gone up.
Right.
Inflation. His postal retirement check didn't move.
That's right.
So there you go. And by the way, let your listeners know that the postage stamp is going to 33 cents real soon.
Oh, good
and
night.
it's going to keep on going. So we have inflation. So we really need to save and invest and be prepared.
Right. We run out of time, and you think about the NBA strat. These guys would really like to listen to you because they got to prepare themselves. For Jesse Brown, I'm Earl Christie. See you next week. Take care.
Thank you, Earl.